All right, in our first video, we're going to work on finding the vertex of a quadratic function in standard form. What we want to do, though, is we want to understand how the form that we know that we worked on in our last lesson, vertex form, we'll go ahead and write that out, y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. How does that relate to standard form? And when it looks like this, ax squared plus bx plus c, how do we find the vertex? So we worked on, in our last lesson, how to multiply out vertex form. We did multiply it out with numbers, so it was a little bit easier, but let's go ahead and work on multiplying this out just with the variables that we have. A times x minus h squared, we know is x minus h times x minus h plus k on the end. Now, when we multiply out that x minus h times x minus h, I'll just go ahead and tell you, once you combine like terms, it's x squared minus 2x times h, or I'm just going to say 2hx, I'm going to keep the x as the last term, plus h squared, and then we have our plus k on the end. Then we would distribute the a, so we would have a times x squared minus 2 times a times h times x. We're just multiplying a times that negative 2hx, and I'm keeping the x on the end. And then plus a times h squared plus k. All right, so why are we doing all this, right? Well, if we look at standard form, I'm going to write standard form right below it. So what we just did is we multiplied out vertex form, and it's going to look like this. So when our function looks all multiplied out, how do we figure out the vertex? How do we get this h value and that k value? So standard form, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And what we're showing here is that here's our a value is right there, a is a, and so you have ax squared. Next, though, we have minus 2ah is what our b value is equal to. And there's our x. So bx, we're showing that b is equal to a negative 2ah. And then we're also showing that our c value is equal to this ah squared plus k. I want to focus on the b value. According to what we just worked out, we know that b is equal to negative 2a times h. If we can take that equation and solve for h is in our vertex, it's the x value of our vertex, that's going to help us figure out what the vertex is. So if we solve for h by just dividing both sides by negative 2a, we get h is equal to, that negative I'm just going to throw out front, negative b over 2 times a. So this h is the x value of your vertex. It's going to be equal to a negative b, and the b value is the number in front of our x, divided by 2 times a, and the a value is in front of our x squared. So how does vertex form relate to standard form in terms of finding the vertex? We can find our vertex by finding the x value, which is our h, by just doing negative b over 2a. So the vertex would be negative b over 2a. That is our h. And then we would just plug that value in to get the y value, which would be our k. All right, so that's just a lot of showing you where our formula comes from. Let's actually find the vertex of a function. So here we have standard form, f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 10. We want to go ahead and identify our a, b, and c values. The a value is the number with the x squared, which is a 1. Our b value is the number in front of the x, which is a negative 6. And our c value is the number on the end, which is a positive 10. We just figured out to find the vertex, our h value is equal to negative b over 2 times a. So let's plug in those values. We just said b is a negative 6, so we're going to have negative 6 over 2 times our a value is 1. Negative 6 turns positive, 2 times 1 is 2, and we're figuring out that the h value of vertex form is a 3. So h is equal to 3, and 3 is h is the x value of our vertex. So we just found half of our vertex. How do you find the y value when you know the x value? You just plug it in. So if we're using function notation, what we're figuring out, f of 3, this is just telling us what we're plugging in for the x's, is equal to 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 10. And then we just simplify this math. 3 squared is 9, negative 6 times 3 is negative 18, plus 10. 9 minus 18 is negative 9, and negative 9 plus 10 is a positive 1. So we just figured out the y value, or the k value of our vertex, and that's going to go in right there. So what's the vertex of that function in standard form? 3, 1.